36,400,000. That is the expected number of intelligent civilizations in our galaxy, according to Drake's famous equation. For the last 78 years, we had been broadcasting everything about us. Our radio, our television, our history, our greatest discoveries to the rest of the galaxy. We've basically been shouting our existence at the top of our lungs to the rest of the universe, wondering if we're even alone. 36 million civilizations, allegedly, expected. Yet in almost a century of listening, we'd never heard a thing. We were alone. That was, though, until about 5 minutes ago. The transmission came on every transcendental multiple of hydrogen frequency that we were listening to. Transcendental harmonics, things like hydrogen's frequency times pi, don't actually appear in nature, so I knew it had to be artificial. The signal pulsed on and off very quickly, with incredibly uniform amplitudes. My initial reaction was that this was some sort of binary transmission, on and off. I measured about, let me see it real quick, 1,679 pulses in the 1 minute that the transmission was actually active. After that, the silence that had been there for 78 years resumed. The numbers don't make any sense, actually. Well, at first they didn't. At the beginning, they seemed to be this random jumble of just noise. But these pulses, I mean, all 1,679 of them are so perfectly uniform. And on a frequency that's relatively silent, always silent, really. They had to come from an artificial source. At least I think. I looked over the transmission again and my heart skipped a beat. 1,679, that was the exact length of the Archival message sent out 40 years ago. Okay, I excitedly started arranging the bits in the original 73 by 23 rectangle. I didn't get more than halfway through, but my hopes were confirmed. This was the exact same message. The numbers in binary from 1 to 10. The atomic numbers of the elements that make up life. Hell, the formulas for our own DNA nucleotides. Somebody had been listening to us, and they wanted us to know that they were there, all the way out. And then it came to me from here. The original message was transmitted only 40 years ago. That would mean that life, that this life must be at most 20 light years away, which would mean a civilization within talking distance? If you think about it, this revolutionizes every field I've ever worked in. Astrophysics, astrobiology, hold on a second. The signal is beeping again. Hold on, wait, what is it? This time it's slow. Yeah, it's deliberate. It's lasting under 5 minutes, with the new bit coming in once per second. Though the computers are, of course, recording it, I'll start writing them down. Let's see. 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0. See, at this point I knew immediately that this wasn't the same message as before. My mind races through the possibilities of what this could be. Well, that transmission ends, and it transmitted about 248 bits. Now, surely this has to be too small for any sort of meaningful message. I mean, what great message to another civilization could you possibly send with just 248 bits of information? On a computer. The only files that small would be limited to text. Was it possible? Were they really sending a message to us in our own language? I mean, come to think of it, it's not that out of the question. We've been transmitting pretty much every language on Earth for the past 70 years. Alright, so I began to decipher with the first encoding scheme I could think of. ASCII. 01010100, that's B. 01100101 is E. And as I finished piecing together the message, my stomach really sinks like an anchor. Because all that binary spelled out one thing. Want to know what that is? Be quiet, or they will hear you. This one, I must admit, it actually had a little bit of that freak out moment at the end. Now, I really like stories like this where they have that big twist that comes towards the end, sort of like Zorax or whatever. Here it was written in this almost like cheery-esque manner, where the person behind it, the protagonist, was like really excited actually getting a message back from another civilization. Now, again, it is pretty exciting because to this day we don't know of any other civilization that has responded back to us. I mean, if we did, it would be pretty big information. So, to the point where this person gets the information from this other species, which, I'll say at the end of the day, at least over here, they didn't devolve into total insanity, and it wasn't like they got some secret, demonic voices from beyond. It was actually a message sent back in our own language. Of course, it makes sense because we've been transmitting ourselves through radio signals for so fucking long. But to get a message back that says, be quiet, or they'll hear you, is a chilling message indeed. And if we ever had gotten that, it would raise a lot of questions. You know, what are we talking about? What thing is out there that's going to hunt you down? It basically turned the Earth, and it almost gave me this claustrophobic feeling where it felt like the universe was a lot smaller than we thought of, and there was some weird, dark stuff on the outside that, if they heard us, we'd be pretty fucked. And if another species, another civilization can hear what we say and respond back with relative quickness, telling us, be quiet or they'll hear you, it's a scary sign indeed. And what's even scarier is knowing that it probably wasn't an instant message. Of course, it obviously wasn't sent back. It's not like we had our DMs open with another planet or another civilization. No, this message could have been responding back to us, I don't know, relatively close to maybe 10, 20 years ago, something like that. Of course, if you factor in all the time dilation, how long it takes for those messages to not only send, but also take the time to send from them and receive to us would be really long. And the fact that we probably got this warning a while back, and we just never acted on it. In fact, if anything, the communication technologies that we use have gotten only louder. We created more noise than we ever could have, even 20 years ago. You know, 20 years ago, we had very limited forms of communication. We were setting up communication networks for global, you know, communication across not only just cell phones, but the emerging internet, things like that. And nowadays, if you factor in all the communications technologies we have, just even using your smartphones, things like that, we make so much more noise. If this person thought we were yelling back then, at this point, we are screaming not just at the top of our lungs, but we are screaming at the top of those lungs with megaphones out to the entire fucking universe around us. And in a way, you know, if we look at it from a realistic perspective, it's both good and bad. It just means that if there are people out there and they have the means to communicate back with us with this technology, then it just means we see whatever life out there, you know, whatever life out there will respond to us quicker, right? And I'm one of those people that believes that there are definitely more civilizations beyond us. I mean, there has to be, right? We can't just be all alone in this big, giant universe. But at the same time, reading something like this, of course, it's just a creepypasta, right? But at the end of the day, if we had ever gotten a message back that has simply said from another docile universe that we should probably keep our mouths shut because there's something even darker and graver out in space, I think I would shit myself, because at this point, like I said, we've been screaming at the top of our lungs with megaphones and all kinds of amplification technology you can talk about. So chances are when we get that warning back, we're probably going to get a string of warnings following it, but it means nothing at the end of the day, because whatever that warning could have done was left unattended for years, maybe decades, and whatever thing is hunting you down is probably just around the corner. Now, of course, being a creepypasta, you have to put yourself in a level of disbelief, and that's what we've done here as always. But one thing that I do have to appreciate is those good twists at the end. Normally, I've reserved those for things like Zorax or whatever, where it's kind of a mindfuck creepypasta. Here, you go from, you know, just a nice investigative piece, and you're basically just putting yourself into this session. You're almost feeling the joy of this protagonist until you, at the same time as them, sink your stomach down to your legs, realizing that we're a little more fucked than we might have initially thought. It's a nice little touch, and frankly, it's one of those twists that I'll always give credit to whenever credit is due. But let me know what you think about the universe and what's beyond our own little barrier over here. Do you think there's something sinister out there, or are we just going to find people like us talking back to us in a way that we probably should expect? If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. This has been another episode of Creepypastas, part of Haunted Gaming. As always, let me know what you would rate this and what you would change to make it better. This is me, Mudahar, and I'm out.